Before we dive into the technical material of this course, let's go over the details of the course itself. First, I'll be using Go 1.13.1. If you're watching this video and you prefer to use the latest version, that's fine. I don't think there's a significant difference between the versions, but if you don't feel exactly comfortable with using a different version, then please download 1.13.1. Now to my second point. I'll be using an IDE called Goland, but feel free to use any IDE that you feel comfortable with. Use what you're used to using, or you could try something new. It's all up to you. I'll use Goland, but please note I won't be providing user support or any technical support for Goland. You may already be familiar with some of these, but there are several free IDEs available. For example, I have Visual Studio Code listed here at the top. In the Silicon Valley, this is widely used. It's free and it's powerful. If you want to try using an IDE that you've never used before, Visual Studio Code and the other listed here may be worth taking a look at. Please search around for an IDE that you feel comfortable using. On to my next point. I'll be using Mac. You can use Windows, but you may find that your setting or display might be slightly different from mine. I think the difference would be minimal, so don't think this will be a big issue. Next point, please do not distribute the source code provided in this course. But please note referring to a section of the source code in your blog or Cheetah, for example, and then including a link to my Udemy course is something that I would very much appreciate. Next, please understand that there may be cases where I may not be able to answer questions that are related to the course. I'll do my best to try to answer your questions, but blockchain development is a very big topic. For example, you might be wondering how to make blockchain development work in the medical or real estate sectors. Questions like this is not specifically related to this course, so I won't be able to answer it. Moving on, if you do have a question, I would greatly appreciate it if you could Google your question first before asking it. My development environment may be different from yours, and you might encounter errors. And at times like this, instead of me trying to provide a solution, it may be more time efficient and effective if you Googled your question first. Next, please feel free to adjust the speed of this course. On Udemy's website, there's a speed icon on the bottom left, and you can adjust the speed there. At times, you may feel that my speaking is too fast or maybe too slow. You can adjust the speed to what you feel is best for your learning. Next, we have a list of topics which students should be somewhat familiar with before taking this course. You don't need to be an expert with these topics. On the left-hand side, we have the topic names, and on the right side, we have a number. This number represents how familiar you should be with the topic on a scale of 1 through 10, with 10 meaning you should know the topic very well. At the very top, we have Go Basic plus Advanced. You may already have knowledge of Go. For example, you may have taken a Udemy course about Go. You may be familiar with some libraries from other courses, but there may be other libraries that you're being introduced to for the first time in this course. I'll be writing the codes and explaining at the same time, so I think introducing new libraries won't create any issues. Next, we have Web. In other programming languages, there are many web frameworks, but with Go, a web framework is available by default. This is usually covered in an intro class on Go, and if you're somewhat familiar with this, it should be fine. Next, we have JavaScript, jQuery, Ajax, REST, HTML, and CSS. We'll be creating a web UI, so if you're familiar with these, being able to create a web UI shouldn't be extremely difficult. But again, this isn't the most important point of the course, so I'll briefly just explain to cover this topic. Next, if you already have Bitcoin knowledge, that's great. If you already have some knowledge of cryptocurrency and have actual experience of sending and receiving cryptocurrency, it may be easier for you to visualize our demo. But again, this isn't a requirement. We'll be discussing in detail how cryptocurrency works in this course, so you don't need to be an expert at cryptocurrency at this time. Next is security. This time, we'll be using the security-related algorithm such as public key, private key, SHA-256, digest, and so on. Regarding this point, if I explain about each security-related algorithm, the lectures will end up being quite long. So instead of going into detail about each algorithm, I'll summarize and pick up only the important points of the algorithms. If after listening to my explanation, you feel you want to learn more about it, then please Google it. Next is network. This time we're going to launch the blockchain node, so if you're familiar with IP address and port, this course may be easier to understand. And last is environment settings. Depending on what version of Go you download, you may see that there are differences between the download process. There may be slight differences between the Go versions and also IDE. If you're familiar with how to download these, you shouldn't have any problem with this course. Now that we've gone over the details of the course, let's begin.